like to welcome everyone to the Madison Fire District regular session meeting, May 19th, 2021 at 7:01. Roll call, please.
Mr. Adams.
Here.
Mr. Anderson.
Here.
Mr. Gontner.
Here.
Mr. Lee.
Here.
Mr. Vest. Mr. Wayman.
Here.
Okay, we're going to go into the open public portion for the 2022 preliminary tax budget. I'm going to ask Mrs. Clapp if she wants to explain, go into some details here for us.
Sure, this is gonna be a resolution that you're gonna be approving later tonight that we're required to have this public, hearing for. This is to adopt the, a preliminary tax budget for our tax year starting January 1st, 2022. And this is, we just kinda use our 5-year figure for budget and what we're anticipating on here. So that's how we set it up for this one. And to make sure this is mainly so we can get our property taxes.
Also, this was sent in on May 5th to be published, and it was published on May 6th, just for the record. Okay, I'm going to move on to the chief's comment. Chief, you have anything you want to add to that?
No, sir, this is just based on what we projected for the next, decade. So I'm sure there'll be some changes made when we propose in December, the final budget.
Thank you, sir. Move on to any board members' comments.
No, sir.
Okay, any public comments? Okay, no further. May I have a motion to adjourn the hearing?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Gartner first. Second.
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Gontner.
Yes.
Mr. Lee.
Yes.
Mr. Wayman.
Yes.
Mr. Adams.
Yes.
Mr. Anderson.
Yes, time is 7:03. Okay, we're going to move into our regular session. Same time, 7:03. Would everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would everyone also please join me in a moment of silence, please? Thank you. May I have a motion for the approval of the minutes for April 21st, 2021 regular session? Is there a motion?
Yeah, that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Adams.
Yes.
Mr. Anderson.
Yes.
Mr. Gontner.
Yes.
Mr. Lee.
Yes.
Mr. Wayman.
Yes.
May I have a motion for the approval of the bills and payroll for March 2021? Bills at $43,998.73. Payroll is $135,523.49 for a total of $179,522.22. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move to pay the bills and payroll.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Is there anything, Ms. Clapp, you want to add to that, or do you need?
Oh, I can just tell you that our audit cost us only $2,460 for this year.
Oh. What was it last year? Or not last year, but
I'd have to look it up for 2 years.
that's fine. That's fine, I was just curious. No further question? Roll call, please.
Mr. Anderson.
Yes.
Mr. Gontner.
Yes.
Mr. Lee.
Yes.
Mr. Wayman.
Yes.
Mr. Adams.
Yes.
Okay, April 2021 financial report, Ms. Clapp.
All right, this is a reading off the fund summary report, so the board knows. We started April with $5,651,797.75. Our month-to-date revenue that we collected was $160,284.99. Our year-to-date revenue is $2,354,733.38. Again, our month-to-date expenditures was $179,522.22. Our year-to-date expenditures is $946,861.86. So we started May with $5,632,560.52.
Any
our month-to-date revenue included our rollback tax dollars, and that's why that was up. And then you notice that we started taking our EMS out of there. And then this month, we have the loan payment coming due. That's what you're gonna be approving the debt transfer for that interest.
And how much is that?
The interest for that is $32,415.20, and that's
Thank
the
you.
resolution down here for the tax.
Okay. Any further questions? Okay, we'll move on to open public portion. Move on to legal counsel, Mrs. Dame.
The only thing I wanted to point out to the board tonight is we do have resolutions later on this evening regarding the administrative assistant position. Just wanted to point out to the board some discussion that I had with Chief Baker today regarding that position. We did advertise it as a part-time position. Everyone was interviewed with all candidates being informed that it was a part-time position. When we were looking at the administrative assistant job description that was created for Nyla Brass,
Sorry, Stacy, I hate to butt in. Hey, Chief, can you hear me really quick?
Yes.
Could everybody move their microphones about 3 to 4 inches closer to them?
can you hear me now, Brian?
That's a lot better.
Okay,
Yep.
great, thank you so much. But basically regarding the administrative position, so when we looked at the job description, it had NYLA specific hours of work in there, which were different than what we were intending for this particular position. And so the best way to address that is going to revise the job description, but then we didn't want to negatively affect Nyla Brass until she is done or until she concludes her employment with the district, since she is our full-time administrative assistant. So we did go ahead and create a part-time job description, basically mirroring what job responsibilities Nyla had, and then setting it so that the hours were adjusted as the board intended and advertised. So that's where the part-time administrative assistant job description comes in. One thing I will need clarification on from the board when we get into that is the accumulation of vacation, sick, and holiday pay. The discussion was had with regards to whether we make that in line with what state employees get and just align it with the Ohio Revised Code provision for those where, you know, it would be the standard for vacation, it would be prorated, accrued at, 3 1/10 hours. Sick time is obviously 4 6/10 hours for each 80 hours, and then holiday would be, 4 hours of pay since it's a part-time position. But I know you guys are all familiar with that, but I just want to make sure everybody's on the same page when we're voting on those resolutions tonight. So that's all I have for the board. And if there's any questions on that, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Anybody have any questions for Mrs. Dame?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. We're gonna move into old business. I have a couple questions here. Chief, anything on the CT consultants for Fire Station 2?
So I was in correspondence with Andrew Tarosky, Andy.
Right.
Apparently, there's been some issue, I don't know whether they're tied up, their mechanical engineers are tied up, but they are behind the drawings. I did place drawings that we have to date in the board folder. They are subcontracting out a mechanical engineer to finish those drawings. I kind of reiterated to him what we did at the last meeting. If they get something done and there's a need for a special meeting, we'll move forward with that. But as it stands, I have no ETA. I think Mr. Gautner heard from him as well, and there's really not an ETA. It is what it is.
Yeah, they are they're just really busy, and he said they're actually probably gonna have to sub out a portion of the mechanical work to another mechanical contractor just because they're so busy. But I'm still hopeful we might have something by next month. They're close. I was just looking at the drawings, and they're real close. So I would think that we're gonna have something by next month.
And depending on the time frame, I can let you know, Mr. Chairman, if there's a need to call a special meeting just to approve that.
Sure.
We can set that up even if we need to do something virtually.
Right, that'd be fine.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I might add,
Yes.
when I worked this schedule out last winter, and it was a very aggressive schedule to begin with, so there is a little bit of wiggle room in it. I would just hope, we had them finishing the project in September. If it doesn't get done till the end of October, maybe even November, we're gonna be okay. I just didn't wanna get into the winter season. And luckily, this isn't a big building, it's a pretty basic, stick-built type of building, so it should go up pretty quick. Once you get it up, you know, and the roof on it and stuff, then the interior work is, you know, you're in the dry, so. I'm still confident we're gonna be okay.
Any other questions on that? Okay, I have one other one. The driveway,
So I took the liberty to contact Mr. Pada yesterday, because I knew we'd be having a meeting tonight, and I knew that each and every one of you would feel the pain of pulling in the driveway. Right now, he said it looks like the first 2 weeks of June is when they're gonna try to get that up again. They're gonna do one half, wait 7 to 10 days, and then do the other half. So hopefully by the next board meeting, we'll be pulling into something smooth.
okay. Any questions on the driveway? Mr. Wayman, anything? No, okay. Okay, we'll move on, anyone else on old business? I didn't mean to overstep. Anybody else? No? Okay. Moving to new business, we'll move into resolution 2114. Mrs. Clapp?
Sure, this is resolution number 2114, is a resolution authorizing the fiscal officer of Madison Fire District to transfer funds from the general fund 1,000 to the general bond note retirement fund 3101 and declaring an emergency.
Is there a motion on resolution 2114?
Yeah, that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second, Mr. Chairman.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Lee.
Yes.
Mr. Wayman.
Yes.
Mr. Adams.
Yes.
Mr. Anderson.
Yes.
Mr. Gontner.
Yes.
Okay, move on to resolution 21-15, tax budget 2022, Ms. Clark.
This is, again, resolution number 21-15 is a resolution approving and adopting the tax budget of the Madison Fire District for fiscal year commencing January 1st, 2022, and submitting same to the county auditor.
Is there a motion on resolution 21-15?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Wayman.
Yes.
Mr. Adams.
Yes.
Mr. Anderson.
Yes.
Mr. Gontner.
Yes.
Mr. Lee.
Yes.
Okay. Move on to resolution 21-16, part-time administrative assistant job description. Mrs. Dame?
This is resolution number 21-16, a resolution establishing the position of part-time fire district administrative assistant and approving and adopting the job description for said position for the Madison Fire District. I will point out that Exhibit A is attached to the resolution, which is the part-time job description. The only thing that I would want clarification and possible amendment from on the board is that vacation, hourly, and sick time will accumulate per the Ohio Revised Code, and that would be for state employees, which I can make a specific direction to that effect in the job description if it's the board's pleasure.
Is there a motion on 21-16?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Wayman.
Yes.
Mr. Adams.
Yes.
Mr. Anderson.
Yes.
Mr. Gontner.
Yes.
Mr. Lee.
Yes.
Okay, move on to resolution 21-17, administrative assistant employment. Mrs. Dane?
Yes, this is a resolution hiring Lori Hoja, I think I said that right, to the position of Fire District Part-Time Administrative Assistant for the Madison Fire District.
Is there a motion for resolution 21-17?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
if it pleased the board, we had about 32 applications. We took the time to interview about 10. Lori definitely stood out above everybody, and I think it worked out well for her and where she is in her life, and it worked out beautifully for us and where we are in our life. So there was a good interest, and the cream rose to the top.
Any other discussions? Roll call, please.
Mr. Adams.
Yes.
Mr. Anderson.
Yes.
Mr. Gontner.
Yes.
Mr. Lee.
Yes.
Mr. Wayman.
Yes.
Welcome aboard. Okay, we move in Chief's report. Mr. Chief Baker.
Thanks, sir. The report was uploaded to the board folder for you. Anniversaries, just to recognize those guys. Firefighter Scott Wells just finished 28 years. Captain Meister just finished 20. Firefighter Wema 15, and firefighter Newer 9. We did accept the resignation / retirement of firefighter Rudy Graham. He is just shy of 27 years. I think he's just gotten to the point where it's been a good ride, and Rudy's served the community well, and we accepted his last day, I believe, is going to be May 25th. So we thank Rudy for his service. The budget information is there in the chief's report. Everything looks well. The tax revenue looks good, but again, it's hard to say what percentage paid 100% and what percentage paid half of their taxes. The EMS revenue's on budget. Salaries were still okay. We are in the midst of a staffing crisis, yet ongoing. I think the full-time guys helped. I think right now, one of the things that we're seeing, and Captain Sopko can even speak to it, we have a lot of full-time firefighters that work here part-time, and a lot of those full-time firefighters are getting overtime at their full-time jobs. And I will tell you, the one that's killing us the most is Menor. Menor must have 3 or 4 overtime shifts a day, because it seems like they're always calling off. So, and as you guys know, in the beginning of May, I went down to Columbus to participate in that assist, and I talked to a lot of other folks in the public safety sector. It's not just northeastern Ohio. This is a challenge that everybody's fighting. So the summer months are usually our hardest. I think we had 9 overtime shifts in the calendar, the 28-day calendar. We're bringing in 2 new folks in the next month here, 2 new part-timers to try to help fill some of those gaps. But the applications aren't there. One of the things we're going to talk about the officers meeting is opening back up, and I know I saw Mr. Gautner submitted a letter to Mr. Brown about the township opening up. I think we need to open back up, and I think we need to start getting some of these programs to do ride time here again, and that's one of the things we'll talk about at the officers meeting. That gives us a chance to have some exposure with students and hopefully try to pluck people out of school if we can. Call volume was high last month. We ended up with 293 runs. It's about 25% up from the same time last year. Fire inspections are ongoing. Vehicles, preventative maintenance, of course, now it's hot, and these vehicles that have been sitting without air conditioning running, I think we have 2 squads that are going out for service and air conditioners. One just came back. If you're not familiar, the way the system works is basically there's a valve that keeps the antifreeze and radiator fluid from going, well, it's like your hot water tank valve. We don't exercise it, it freezes up. So buildings, again, we talked about Station 3's driveway and CT Consultants. I did have some conversation with some folks outside of the fire district. We're working right now to see if we can get some funding mechanisms in place to help support the construction at Station 2. There's nothing definitive, but we are looking at that. We did also meet with University Hospital, and hopefully we'll have some conversations between now and the next meeting about things that have potential. We also talked about the Lake Madison facility, and I think by next month, I'll probably come to the board and ask for a letter of support for the Lake Madison facility to keep it open as an ER, and addressing a letter to the Lake Health/UH system. Other than that, the budget looks good. I want to commend these guys. I don't know whether people have listened, but over the course of the last 2 weeks, I know I worked yesterday, and I think we had 8 calls in 45 minutes. I think B shift about a week ago got railroaded. We're facing some challenges with what the calls are for. We're working with the police department because we've got some cases where we need to get the Department of Human Services involved. I think what we're beginning to see now is some of the repercussions for the last year. We're seeing some mental health and some other challenges. I don't know, Mr. Adams, whether you're seeing it at Painesville City, but we're definitely, we're definitely seeing a change in the trend of what we're being called for. And these guys are stepping up again, short-staffed hydrants. We're flushing hydrants, we're testing hose, and we're running above-average calls. So I would be happy to answer any questions from the board.
Anybody have any questions for the chief?
I know one of the things that we use, that we just started in Painesville City, was we're working with Beacon Health, Signature Health, they've all combined Crossroads, and you've been seeing it on TV and everything, where they've actually, their counselors are coming out riding with us and things like that. I'll be the first one to tell you, I was very skeptical of that.
No.
And yes, believe it or not, I was. And, I'll tell you what, it was a positive. You know, we had them for probably about 6 months, and even through COVID and everything like that. And, I'll tell you what, it really worked out. It did. It's a learning process for all of us. But I think you're gonna start seeing that more and more. And you might even see it in the fire departments at some point in time. I don't know, but it has been very positive. So I'll be the first one to throw that out there, you know, that I just like, hey, stay in the car. I'll call you if I need you,
Right.
you know, I'll handle it. But I got over that, and it actually worked out well.
Well, and I think the challenge, and I've talked to Chief Byers and Chief McIntosh both in the last 2 days, I think the challenge is from Adult and Child Protective Services both. We're caught in the middle. And unfortunately, for the fire service, we're at the bottom of the middle because law enforcement simply calls us for an evaluation and we're stuck. Then we go to the ER and the ER, you know, has no idea, like, what do you, so there's some major gaps that need filled, and unfortunately, I think we're kind of that point, and right now, I think COVID in this last year has exacerbated, because it's just been a lot of strange stuff.
Well, you know, we had a safety committee meeting today, and, you know, it seems that the impact of kids being out, you know, in a virtual environment, and then back partially, and, you know, they're reacting, they're going out there and doing things they shouldn't be doing, and either the police department or the fire department is being called more often now, you know, to handle these juvenile situations. And, you know, Chief, I wish we had a you know, an all-inclusive answer, but we just have to deal with it.
Yep.
And you're doing a good job.
Yes.
I think we're gonna see the fallout of this the last 2 years, probably over the next 5 years.
Yeah.
You know,
This
I
isn't
mean,
over. This is the beginning.
And this is the new norm. Now we're just learning how to try to cope with it and deal with it. And it is, I mean, our calls are just way up, just tremendously with mental health type things. So this is gonna be ongoing for quite some time.
That's for sure. Okay, any other questions for the chief? Okay, we'll
Thank you,
move,
Mr. Chairman.
move on to closing public portion. Nobody? Closing board comments. Anybody from the board have any?
It's good to be back.
Yes, it is. Okay, no further business. Our next meeting will be June 16th, 2021 at 7 PM and July 21st, 2021 at 7 PM. Is there a motion to adjourn?
You have that motion.
Is there a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Roll call?
Mr. Anderson.
Yes.
Mr. Gontner.
Yes.
Mr. Lee.
Yes.
Mr. Wayman.
Yes.
Mr. Adams.
Yes.
Time is 7:25.
Great job, Max.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.